Yeah, I'm going again showing end stream, live stream. Just check. I think I'm already live. I'm speaking on live, but anyway, yeah, I'm live. I think. Am I live? Just tell me when I'm live. Okay, just please confirm when I'm live. I'm not able to make out. Yeah, sure. Thanks. So basically we're discussing about scores. I'll tell you how to interpret your scores and how do you go about it. I'll check out the last 3 years data, and from there you can maybe try to figure out how do you go about trying to find out your percentile scores, etc. Right? So give me a minute. Right. So I'll make a small presentation before we start, and then maybe we can discuss. I think I'm lagging behind. I'm not sure, but yeah. First, let me make a small presentation as to how do you interpret the scores. Then I'll start answering your question in terms of how do you go about what you do as such. This I've released a video, but I'm making a different this one. So raw score is a scale score. Remember, there's a change. There will always be a change from whatever raw score you've got right now to the scale score that we'll get later on. There will be a change. I will tell you slot by how it has been changed over the past years so that you have a fair idea as to what the change will happen. Now, scale score, the score on which your percentile is calculated. So that means from the raw score, you calculate your scale score first. That's what they do. So for each section, they will calculate the scale score. Now that can vary up to 10 marks approximately. I mean, it can vary more also, but overall it can vary more than 10 marks. Depends on the difficult level of the paper. Paper is more difficult, you will have, scaled up. Paper is less difficult, will be scaled down. Basically how people are performed. It doesn't depend upon what you see the topper scores, etc. It doesn't depend upon that. You'll have to wait for the whole scaling to come up and this one. Now what you actually people predict are not a very right way of predicting. You cannot really predict really how the scores will scale. They will scale each section separately. There will be overall scaling, okay, some of the section wise scaling which is there, and possible at higher marks and at low marks that will be different scaling. Okay. So okay, I've come up with this slot 1. Let's start with each slot. And this is like CAT 22, CAT 21 and CAT 20 scaling that has happened. Now last year, I'm just giving an idea. Last year we said that 84 marks was a 99 percentile. But 84 was, remember, a scale score, not a raw score. So actually a raw score would be lesser than that. Okay, for example, I'll just give you an example. Like for example, in the slot 1, 84 marks was scored. Okay, but the scale score was 92. There was a scaling of almost 8.949 marks which was there for slot. And that resulted in 99.51. So a person who scored 84 actually scored a 99.51. A person who scored 78 in slot 1 actually scored a 99.25. Right, in slot 1. Which means last year, if I look at purely slot 1, a score of maybe around 75 or 76 marks would have given you 99 percentile. I mean, this is a raw score. Remember it. A scale score of 84 marks gives you 91 percentile, but a raw score of 76 gave you 99 percentile. So there was a scaling of almost 8 to 10 marks which happened in the slot 1, higher marks as such. In CAT 21, there was a scaling of around 4 marks, 3 to 4 marks. Okay, if you look at the scaling that happened was approximately 3 to 4 marks. It varied, but yeah, 2, 3, but again scaled up, but by a smaller margin. In CAT 20, also the slot 1 was scaled up. So if you look at slot 1, normally as far as last 3 years is concerned, has always been scaling a bit up. Okay, a little bit up. I mean, compared to what a raw score is, scaling is up, which is always there. Last year the scaling was much higher because people panicked last year drastically. So people who got almost plus 10 marks from their raw score to the scale score was almost plus 10 marks, because of which you got a percentile which is much higher than what you could have gotten the same marks. But remember, slot 1 always had a scaling up, which is there's always a plus. I'm not saying it will be scaling up this time, but there is a higher likelihood in slot 1 because, as I said before the CAT exam, slot 1 people normally panic and therefore the scores tend to be a little low. So we'll have to wait and watch as to how it is going to be this year. If you look at section wise, okay, in verbal CAT 20, in verbal CAT 22, there was a scaling up almost of 6 to 8 marks as such. Okay. DLR, the scaling was almost 3 to 4 marks, almost 5 marks. I mean, so if you look at 3 marks, 4 marks, 5 marks. Con, the scaling was down. Con did scale down last year for slot 1. So this was up, this was up, this was down. If you look at CAT 21 again, VA scaling up, DLR also scaling up, Con scaling down. CAT 20, if you look at again, VA scaled up, DLR was scaled down here. It could be easier this one, therefore DLR scaled down, Con scaled up. So you can't technically present which section will scale up, which section will scale down. It could be different for different this one. But yes, I mean technically overall slot, because you just start the paper and therefore there is always a scaling up, but not necessary. So people who are predicting 84 as a 99 percentile, remember it is a scale score, not a raw score. So your score, whatever your score will be scaled, but it will go up most likely. So say if I'm a slot 1 student, I'm just giving an example. I have scored a 45 or someone said 54, aspirant 54. It could be scaled up to maybe a 58 or 59. And based on that, we'll get a percentile. I'll come to the percentile also, how much is there for each case. Okay, I'll come back to it. So this is approximately CAT 20 to slot 1, how much the scaling has taken place for different scores. I've taken a high score, lower score. Look at high score, the scaling has almost gone to plus 11 out here. Whereas in low, the scaling has gone to higher, plus 2, plus 3, plus 4. Remember that. Okay, this is the raw score, is the scale score. Right? The scaling automatically differs because they based on which section. Here the scaling is very low, 49 to 49.81. The scaling is very low. The reason the scaling is low is because he has scored higher marks in DLR, whereas, okay, as such. Whereas in this case, the scaling is much higher because he has scored more marks in verbal, whereas scaling has gone very high. So scaling differs from section to section. I mean, it may not be exact marks, but this is approximately slot 1. I mean, there could be some error in some of the data points which are there, but this will give you a fair idea as to how the scaling happens per section wise in terms of case. So it need not be at 57, 54, 119. There could be a small error in the data, but this is approximately what it is. Okay, for scale 1. So if you look at around 58, 57, you can approximately last year the scaling was plus 6, plus 5, and so on. If you look at slot 2 last year, okay, overall, if I look at it, overall there was a slight scale up, not too much. Slot 1 had a higher scaling up, slot 2 had a slight scale up, not too much. Okay, in CAT 20, this is CAT 22. In CAT 21, if you look at it, okay, overall there is a scaling down that happened. Slot 2 had a scale down. Here there was a scale up, here there was a scale down. Okay, if you look at here, all here there was a scale up, but in slot 2 there was a scaling down, and here in the CAT 20 there was a scaling up which happened 25, 30, 20, 27, so on. Okay, here is a major scaling actually by 5-7 marks because the paper was a little tougher in the last sections. You can look at section by scaling also, scaling up in verbal, right? Scaling up in verbal out here, scale down in verbal in CAT 20. DLR, scale down, but here there was a scale up. So it changes every year. Scale up cont, scale down cont, it was scale up. I hope you understand. I mean how the scaling happens. So if you look at scaling is only 1-2 marks everywhere, except at a higher marks, the scaling goes still under a broader perspective, increased scaling. Okay, so this is the marks for the CAT 22. If you look at CAT 22, there was a small scaling happen. At 21 marks, it went to 21.7 overall scaling. 22 marks, it went to 22.82. At 70 marks, it went to 71.59, and so on. So there was a scaling small. Okay, this could be an error. I have to check out what this one could be an error which happened, but yeah, it is possible that the scaling is down because less marks in cont and more marks in verbal, but that we'll have to check. But yeah, this is a rough estimate of these scores. Same way, if I look at slot 3, okay, if you look at slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, raw score overall, if you look at, there has been a scaling up last year. Okay, but if you look at the lower marks, almost the same. Little scaling up, not much. In some marks, there was a scaling down. Some. That was because you scored higher marks where they were scaling down. Okay, and therefore it happened. Okay, wherever if you score high marks when the scale is down. For example, here you scored 44 in verbal and the scaling was down. Therefore, the overall scaling was down. Okay, that affected the overall marks. So where your scaling takes place also matters. So here if you look at verbal was scaled down, Diala was scaled up, Con was slightly scaled up, but this guy who scored 95 had a scale down because he scored very high in verbal where the scaling was down, right? Same with 103 went to 101 because he scored very high in verbal where the scaling was down. Whereas people who scored high in DLR, okay, they had a scaling up. For example, this guy 24, he had a big scale up 6 marks out here, which ensured that he had a scale up overall. Just giving you an idea. So similarly, if you look at CAT 21, this is CAT now 21, okay, the scaling happened, increase. There was an increase of 3 or 4 marks. So overall, normally scales up, remember that. CAT 20 scale was down. CAT 20 the scaling was down. So up, up, down. Okay, and you can see the individual scaling here, verbal scale down, here verbal scale down. So in slot 3, every year verbal was scaled down. That doesn't mean that it will scale down this year. I'm just not. Same with DLF, look at, was scaled up out here, scaled up out here. Here also scaled up. Every year it was scaled up. And Cont, if you look at, scaled up a bit, but here it was scaled down. Cont. Okay, just giving you a picture. Right, if this is clear now, so this is the overall score of Cont if you look at it, slot 3. So marks of 119 went to 122, small scaling happened. Okay, but at a lower score there was scaling down a bit. If you look at 42 or 31, there was scaling down, which happened. And again depends on the distribution of marks that happened. So it is possible that the higher scores the scaling could be a little up, lower scores the scaling will be down. But last year, slot 3, there was generally a scaling down. Slot 1 had a major scaling up. Slot 2 had a little scaling up. Slot 3 had almost same or lower or scaling down. That's how it happened last year overall. Okay. Now I will come to percentile. Now this is last year's percentile. Now how do you calculate your percentile? Now from what I've heard from people is around 10% decrease in your marks. 10 to people said 20% also, but I'm just saying at 10% approximately. So if last year if I say 83, 84 was a 99 percentile, so this year 99 percentile could go down to 76. Okay, 76 or 75, around 75, 76 marks. So reduce 10% in these marks approximately. So if there is a 75, 76 marks, which is 99% is scale score, remember. So that means even if you have got 70 marks, there is a chance that it could scale up and still go to 75, 76. Possible, I'm not saying no. But it is also possible that you have got 75, 76, you could scale down and go below 99%. So you still have variation, I hope you understand. So this is the CAT 22 actual score versus percentile. But I'm saying on tentative basis, you can reduce, okay, from this 10% across the board. Okay, if you reduce 10% across the board, that will give you approximately what the scores will be at different percentiles. And so that means if I'm looking at 80 percentile, I would expect a score of 36 minus approximately 4, which is 32 marks, will get a 80 percentile. Just rough estimating it as such. Okay. Also, if I look at it and marks, there are people who got negative marks also, -2. Still managed to get a 16 percentile. Not very good, but still. Whereas, one is 31 mark person got 33 percentile technically. So technically, in most of the cases, 50 percentile could be the cutoff in college. 50, depends. Every college will have different percentile cutoff. You have to look at it. For example, last year if I scored 5 marks for scaling, it would make a difference in. Now let me just take a different. I'll tell you how to calculate percentile. Someone has put me like slot 3 69 marks. If I have 69 marks in slot 3, I'm just giving an example. Okay, I'm assuming that slot 3 this year was a comparatively easier paper, so I'm assuming it will be 69 only. Okay, I'm just assuming 69, slot 3 69. Okay, Satya mentioned. So 69 in slot 3, where will it come overall? So I'm assuming that 10% reduction in the scores. So if 75 is 99 percentile, I think it will be around 98 percentile. 69 row here is 97 percentile, but I remember there's a 10% decrease in the score. Okay, so I'm assuming a 98 percentile at 69 marks is what I'm approximately saying. Okay, for example, slot 3 may 81 marks. 81 marks should be, I'm just giving an example, would be around say 93 minus 9 will give you around 84. 84 will be around 99.5 percentile. So 81 will be slightly less than that. I'm saying 99.4 or 99.3%. I'm just giving an example. So if you score in a slot P and if you score 81 marks, you will technically get around 99.3, 99.4%. Okay, this is Shivendra Singh's marks. I'm just putting it across. Okay, again, slot 72 in slot 1. Normally, as I said, slot 1 there's a scaling up. So if I look at Aniket Agarwal, 72 marks in slot 1, you will normally scale up. Technically, normally, I'm not saying, say scale up from 72 to maybe 75. It can go to 82 also. I don't know how much the scaling will happen. But say I'm saying 72 to 75, it happens, 75, 76 marks. So 76 is 99 percentile. That means at 72, there is a chance that Aniket would get a 99 percentile. Okay, I hope it is clear in terms of calculation. This sheets will be there anyway. So what you do is, you find out your marks, you scale your scores up and down based on what you are getting. Look at the last year's percentiles, reduce 10% from that. That is approximately what your percentiles are. Remember, your score is just the raw score. It is not the scale score. If I look at last year's slot 1, there was a major scaling up. There can be a major scaling up in the section as well. And therefore, you could have scores which are very different, right, from what you've already got. Okay, I'll take a few. Like slot 3, 60 marks. Okay, if I say slot 3, 60 marks, say 66, maybe around 97 percentile, 96, 97 percentile is what I would expect as a percentile. I mean, that's what I can predict. I'm just telling you the process of calculating your percentile based on your marks, and that's how you can go about it. Okay, you all want to ask me anything which is specific to calls, etc. You can ask me, I can answer the question as such. Okay, calculating each one's percentile for me will be difficult, but I've told you the process of calculating percentiles. So based on that, you can calculate. I can rest assured that slot 1, you can scale up a bit. Slot 2 also you can scale up a bit. Slot 3 depends. I mean, you can scale up or you can remain constant. Though I feel slot 3 was a little tough. So technically there will be little scaling up in all the 3 sections. How much we'll have to wait and watch for the result to come up. But yes, I'm expecting a little scaling up in all the 3 slots. That means whatever your raw score, add it up and you will get your score. Okay. Now slot 1, 42 marks, Nikhil. 42 marks may come up to around 45, 46, which would be more than 90%. I mean, that's my idea about it. Because 90% is, last year was 40, so this year will be 43. But you will scale up your scores. Your scores may go up above 90%. Here's what I, okay, again, slot 3, 20 marks. 20 marks will be around, you can say, you can put around 65%. So if I put 65 to 70%, around that. 20 marks in slot. What I'll do is, I will come up with the expected score versus percentile. Okay, based on the scale score. Again, you have to scale your score up. I'm again warning you, you'll have to scale your score up. I'll come up with the expected score versus percentile, so you have a fair idea as to what your percentiles could be as far as possible. Okay. Slot 2 was the toughest, I don't know. We'll have to wait for scaling to happen and then see how it goes. Then only we can make out. Around 54 marks, slot 1. So if I look at 54 marks, slot 1 will be approximately 60 marks. Should be around 95%. I mean, 95 around plus percentile. That's what I would say. Slot 3, 50 marks would be around 93 percentile. That's how it goes. 93, 94 percentile. Right? So this would give you a percentile. This one. I'm trying to put slot 1, 39. Again, remember this is approximate. This is my this one. It need not be this one. Ishita slot 1, 39. Can scale up to 40 to 43. I would say around 90 percentile is possible. I mean, with slot 139, 90 percentile reaching is possible. You can imagine how much the scores have gone down this time. Though yeah, number of students have gone up, but the marks have gone down. So automatically percentile will not have. Percentile will go down straight. Okay. Slot 165, I mean, it could go to around 98 or something on that. Okay, that is where I would go. And someone in 86 in slot 1, Ashish Bahuguna, 86 could go to about 99.5. It could go to 99.6, 99.7. 99.5 is 93, so this year it will be 85. But at a scale, your scaling may go above, so you may get a 99.6, 99.7 at 86 in slot 1. Right? DLR section, okay, let me just check. Someone is saying that, okay, if I get 6 marks in DLR, will I clear the sectional cutoff? Depends on which college you talk about. If you look at 6 marks in DL, I'm just giving an example. For example, here, 8 marks, say, I scaled up to 9.5 marks. Scaled up to 9.5 marks, approximately, wherever it is. You can look at where DLR marks are there. Say 7, here the scaling was down 4.27. I went up to 54.46. So wherever the cutoffs are 54, you clear it off. Okay, approximately. But here, if you look at 6 marks, there's a scaling up of 7.66. It went to 67.59. So even if you've got 6 marks, I'm just saying, your percentile can still vary from maybe a 50% to a 70 percentile. This is last year's, remember. This year you go further up. So that means your 6 marks can go above 70 percentile. If it goes above 70 percentile, you clear most of the cutoffs, technically. Right? Now for the percentile cutoffs, I'll have a separate, I'll come up with video that will help you to create the percentile list for your own, that will help you as such. 70 to 75 percentile, is there a good college? So normally there are good colleges at different slots. I would not put it at slots. For example, if I'm looking at 80 percentile plus, remember I had a student who had just 80 percentile 2 years back. He applied to a college which had a cutoff of 80 percentile. He got selected. He got a job at Deloitte. He is happy about it. Good package, good pay. So it's not that if you got an 80 percentile, you lost out. Same way, I had a student who had a college with a 75 plus percentile. Decent college, very old college, not very reputed, but still got it. And he got a job at SBI Caps. So when you're looking at a college, look at the placements, how it is. Okay. If it's an older college, the better, because they'll have a better network of people, alumni, which is there. I already come up with a video regards to percentile that you can look at and work out with regards to it. Okay, I'll take up a few questions. I don't know how many questions I can take up, but overall, okay, someone said overall 46 GF, profile 999, what can be expected? So if I look at 46 overall, say that means your score will go, percentile will go to about 90. If it goes about 90, 90 to 95, you should get a call from new ions technically and the baby ions. Possible, right? Then if I look at percentile for 90 marks in slot 3, 90 marks is really high. So in that case, you should be able to score a 99.7, 99 percentile. Okay. If I look at, it should go to around 99.6, 99.7 percentile for 90 marks. Devanshu, right? Slot 3, 92 marks. Oh, people in slot 3 have scored really high, I think. But anyway, so slot 3, 92 marks will again go about 99.6, 99.7 percentile. Slot 3, 41.29. Okay, there are a lot of people also concerned with sectional cutoff. Now, what happens in sectional cutoffs is that it again depends on scaling to some extent. That's one aspect about it. So if you're scaled up, your scores will go up, and that will help you off to clear your personal cutoff. If you're in a borderline case, for example, one of my students has got good marks in verbal and DLR, but quant he has got 7 marks. So if he has got 7 marks in quant, where will he stand? So will he clear the sectional cutoff? That was a question that he had asked. So if I look at 7 marks, if I look at the scale score of 7 marks last year, okay, was around 60 percentile. If I look at scale score of 7 marks last year, was around 60 percentile. So this year it will go further ahead. So he may cross a 70 percentile, which means there is a chance that he will be able to clear sectional cutoff of 70 percentile, which is true for most of the colleges. That's how it will work. Okay. I hope this is clear with regards to 57 slot 2. I'll just take that up. 57 slot 2. This time slot 2, I'm expecting a scale up. It can go to 96, 97%. 97 percentile is what is possible. 57 in slot 2. Okay, it is possible to get a 97 percentile. And slot 2, 64 marks. Slot 2, 64 marks. Again, will go up. Could go to 98 percentile. Okay. I'm calculating it on my own, but you can calculate on your own as to how much it is. Slot 1, 25 marks. 25 marks may touch up to 75 possible. 75 percentile. Right. 36 marks, Prakyat, possible to get. I mean, 36 marks will cross 87, 88, or even 90 percentile, in which case calls are possible for a OBC student, possible as such. Should I apply for gym? Slot 3, 41 marks. Yes, I think you should apply gym. I mean, there's a chance you'll cross a 90 percentile. If you cross 90 percentile, you have a chance that you'll get a call from gym, right? 48 slot 1. Cons 8 marks should clear the cutoff, hopefully. Okay, but coming to 48, it can go to 93, 94 percentile. That's how you can go. 4 in quant is a little dicey. You may still clear cutoff for some of the colleges, but just hope there is a scaling up for quant section. If you got a low marks in any particular section, just hope there is a scaling up and then you should get. Anand Jain 47 in slot 2 should go to 93, 94 percentile. Okay. Vishal slot 178 can go to 99.3 or 99 around that, 99.2, 99.3. That's how you can go. And if I look at flex force slot 242, slot 242 can again go to 92, 90, around 92 percentile. Okay. Slot 272 will easily cross 99 percentile. When 99 is 80, yeah, it should easily cross. It can cross 99 percentile. So Tyler, yeah, possible to cross a 99. Possible. I'm not saying yes, but I'm saying possible, right? And okay, I'll just briefly tell you how to calculate your percentile. First, look at each slot ka marks. Look at scaling up, scaling down. What you feel your scores are going to scale up, your scores are going to scale down. Again, very difficult for me to predict, very difficult for anyone to predict. Can't depend on the scores. Normally, overall, it's usually scale up. If you look at, I'm just giving an example. Slot 1, every year there has been scaling up. Plus 10, here there has been scaling up to almost plus 4. Here there has been scaling up to almost plus 2, plus 3. I mean, if you look at scaling up every year. In slot 2, there has been scaling up in 2 years and scaling down in 1 year. So here the scaling up was almost 1, 2 marks. Here the scaling down was almost 2 to 3 marks. Whereas here the scaling up was almost 6 to 7 marks. Right? And slot 3, again, 2 years there was scaling up, 1 year there was scaling down. Scaling up was around approximately the same. Okay, here there was scaling up of around 3-4 marks. Here there was scaling down of around 2-3 marks. But most of the cases, scaling up happens, scaling down happens. It will be very small scale down, couple of marks scaling down, not much, which is there. Again, I say when you look at a percentile, last year's minus 10 percentage, that is this year's percentile, and then from there you can calculate your marks. So, for example, if I'm slot 1, I'm giving an example, and have scored, let's say someone said 52, we need to weigh 52. I may scale this up to 55, maybe possible. I mean, just saying possible if I feel it scaling up. So if I feel it scaling up to 55, then I'll go up and see where will I get 55. 95 percentile, 60 marks last year. So this year it will be 60 marks minus 6, 54. So I can expect around 95 percentile with a 52 slot 1 score, approximately. Okay, it's possible to score a 95 percentile. Need not be that you will definitely score, but this is just a guess as to how the scores are calculated. Right? I hope this will help. If required, if you want me to come, I'll come again later on live in terms of colleges. This was just to help you to understand how your scores can be converted to scale score and how to calculate the percentile approximately. You will get percentile from different classes. Technically, different classes will give you different percentiles. But understand, those are not final. Whatever I say also is not final. You only get your final based on whatever slot scaling happens when the scorecard comes up. Right? So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll come up with more information. If you want any information, put it in the chat box. I will try to answer, and I will try to also come up with more videos and help you. Yeah. Bye.